So I remember back at the start of lockdown, when we were all on our computers watching Facebook Lives for about half the day, and I was watching my friend do a Facebook Live, and he just dropped this offhand comment where he said, hey, we're locked down, the Holy Spirit isn't locked down. And I know, kind of cheesy, we've said it a lot since, but at the moment it felt like the first time I heard that, and I thought, wow, yeah, that is true. I'm kind of slow, but that sunk in that moment. I realized the Holy Spirit isn't locked down. And so I began to think differently about my daily exercise, my daily walk. And the first time I had this experience that made me think differently about this, I was in a little town called Portrush, just above our church here in Coleraine. There's a prom there, it goes around the coast, and I had my coffee in my hand. And as I walk down the prom, I meet the first guy who's standing there, and I stand 2 meters away from him, and I just say to him, hey, is there anything that I might pray for you for? And my name's Joel, I'm just practicing praying. And he says, yes, there is. I'm a medical supplies driver, and I have tinnitus. And he explains that to me, what that's like. I get to pray for him in that moment, and he describes to me this feeling of electricity and kind of like a tingling that starts here and kind of goes down his body, and tells me that his tinnitus is partly beginning to heal. So I'm pretty encouraged. I'm like, okay, there's something in this. I go down a little bit further, I see a guy on a bench looking kind of dejected, and again, 2 meters away, I just say to him, my name's Joel, I'm out here learning to pray, can I pray for you for anything? He kind of recognizes what's going on, and he says, you're from that church, right? I say, yes. And he describes that he's had a food box from the church in the last week. He talks about his home life, which is pretty difficult. And he describes to me pain in his leg from a pretty constant joint problem, ongoing joint problem. And I pray for that, but it doesn't get healed. No healing there in that moment. And as we go on and talk, he talks about his desire to reconnect with Jesus, to recommit his life to Jesus. As we're talking about that, he interrupts me and he stands up and he just says, the pain is completely gone. And he begins to walk around and says, I'm able to walk again with no pain in my leg. He says, this is the first time this has happened for 8 years. And so I'm pretty stoked at this moment. This is exciting for me. I keep walking. I get to the end of the prom. I see this other young guy with a bike just sitting down on a bench again. Same deal, same situation. He's getting out of his house. He's pretty tense, indoors, locked up, and he wants to get a breather. And so he's gone out, and as I get to talk with him, all of his questions, he talks about all of the things in his life that he wonders about a higher power. He's heard about Jesus. He doesn't know how to connect with him, and we share stories. And then he just turns to me and he says, hey, how do I pray? How do I let Jesus in? So that's an amazing question to get asked. I get to share the gospel with him, and he says yes to entering into the story of Jesus. As he does that, he describes this physical feeling of peace and electricity just beginning to settle on him. Let's talk to him about how that's the Spirit. And he tells me how excited he is to connect with God as a father. It's just such a precious moment to be involved in. And as I walked away, I realized, okay, that was 30 minutes. And I met 30 minutes, I met these 3 guys who were desperately hungry to have some kind of encounter with God. And I walked off and I just think, goodness me, that like the Holy Spirit isn't locked down. People are hungry, people are desperate. Why don't we just begin to connect with people in the way that we can and let the Holy Spirit guide us in that and keep going.